Now that we see what these guys had to learn, we see that they had to know the problem, that they had to know the solution, that they had to know the program of action, and they had to apply that in their life in order to recover. Let's now begin to look at how the book is laid out to follow the same identical information that Bill and Bob and Bill Dotson, the first 40, first 100, the same information that they had to know also. Let's go to the table of contents.
Okay, as we examine the table of contents, looking at the procedure of the book and the program, I think this shows us the simplicity of the big book. Now, the big book is written basically to solve the problem of alcoholism, and there's nothing new to this. There's nothing new about the concept that the book is written. Now, if you're going to solve a problem, there are three things you need to know to solve the problem. Problem solving is simple. The first thing we do in problem solving is we find out what is the problem. That information is basic, and that is the foundation of everything we're going to do. Now, this is, the big book is going to do where start, the foundation of that is going to be Dr. Silkworth's, the doctor's opinion, and Bill's story. This section of the book will explain the exact nature of the problem. And the first step, I'll be talking about the first step, which is a problem statement. The problem is we're powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable. So basically, the problem is going to be powerless. So that is the first thing we will have to do. And it's like solving any other problem. If you're having trouble with your car, and your car stops, the first thing you would have to find out is what is wrong, why did it stop, what is the problem? If you didn't find that, you couldn't carry out the solution, or could you take some action? Because the solution and the action is going to be based on that of whatever you find out. So that is the foundation, and this is why this has to be done 100% and it's so important. And it ended up that you're powerless. Now, once we get that information, then we're going to come to the second set of information. If you're powerless, what is the solution? And that's contained in There Is a Solution, More About Alcoholism and We Agnostics. Those three chapters of the book will discuss the solution, or step 2. It's obvious that if you're powerless, that your solution would be power. And since we can't do anything about the allergy, we don't know anything about the allergy, we believe the solution would be power working in the mind. Therefore, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So once we see that we're powerless in step 1, it's obvious that the solution is power in step 2. Now we come to the main job. The main purpose of the book is to show us how to recover. And that's in a little planned program of action that is laid out in how it works, into action and working with others. These 3 chapters will contain a 10-step planned program of action, which if taken, if we take this action, we will find the power and that's in step 2, that will solve the problem in step 1. So the main job is how do we find that power? And this is in those 10-step program of action. So we're going to be looking at 3 things. What is the problem? The powerless. What is the solution? Power. And then how do we find that power? Step by step, a procedure that we use in solving any problem, we use that same procedure.
And we always bear in mind that this is the same 3 pieces of information that it was necessary for Bill to know, and the same that Dr. Bob had to know, and the same for Bill Dotson. They could do nothing about their disease until they really learned they had a disease. As long as they thought it was weak will, moral character, whatever they applied simply did not work. And after they found out they had a disease, then they could find the proper solution. And then they could determine a program of action. So the real thing centers around first what is the problem. And I think this is the one thing that we have in AA that nobody else in the world has, is we alcoholics who have recovered from the disease of alcoholism know more about the problem of alcoholism than anybody alive. And what we've been doing here lately is we've been letting treatment centers try to convince people they're alcoholic, when we're the only ones that really have the knowledge of what alcoholism is. And I think this is the one thing that we can do for a suffering alcoholic that nobody else can do, is sit down with them and help them understand what their problem is. That's what Bill did for Dr. Bob, and that's what the two did for Bill Dotson. I hope we never quit doing that. If we let other people do it for us, surely it won't be done as well.